I was like, I was infatuated with these Sonic book covers. I was like, it looked so cool. The art was cool. I didn't really even know what a comic book was. And I was like trying to understand it. I was like, you know, as a kid, part of the experience of being a kid is you don't really... You're trying to understand things, but you know your reaction to it is like, it's good, it's positive. I like this. I don't really know. My grandfather, I was like, Grandpa, you got it. I don't know what that is. I don't know where it is. And bless my grandfather, because it's like, imagine your kid. Hey, here's this like weird. First of all, does he even understand what a video game is? Look, there's this thing, and I don't know what it is, but I want it. Christ, where do I even begin? You know. So bless my grandpa. But he took me to. I remember he took me to a bookstore. I don't know what bookstore it was, like a Barnes and Nobles or something like that. And it was Sonic, but it wasn't the comic. I didn't even understand the concept of a comic book. I didn't know, like, oh, this is a comic, right? So we went around and we finally found a little comic book, like a little corner, hole in the wall, little place, comic book store. And they had an issue of the Archie comic book, Archie Sonic comic book. I bought it and I loved it. I didn't even know what a comic book was. And my grandpa, he set up a subscription to the comic book that I continue to get even after I grew up and moved away from him. Up until like middle school, I would get an Archie Sonic comic book delivered like as they came out because my grandpa got me the subscription to it. And that was where the source of my Sonic infatuation came from, was the comic book. It wasn't... I mean, of course I played Sonic Adventure 2 Battle and Sonic Heroes, and I loved those games as a kid. But really, it was the comic books that made me such a fan of them. That was my grandpa. A lot of my formative experiences I owe to my grandfather. He was the one that kind of always indulged my interests. I mean, my family were generally supportive, but he was always the one where I showed an interest in something, like Sonic, for example, and he would be the one to, like, kind of, you know, enable me to go and pursue it, and, you know, stuff like that ended up being such a big part of my personality, I guess, or my interest at the very least. Your grandpa sounds dope. He was. He was. He actually, yeah, he did a lot for me, actually. I wouldn't be here without him. He's from North Korea, and he escaped. He escaped. He has a crazy story. He was in North Korea, and, you know, crazy stories about how, like, his family trying to escape to South Korea. I mean, crazy stuff. What you expect from North Korea, right? Just like, oh yeah, my brother went to get medicine and never came home, type of stuff, right? And he had a different brother that was supposed to... Oh, this is sad. My grandfather's brother made it to South Korea. I don't really know how they were communicating or anything, but the brother was supposed to go first. I don't remember the circumstances really or whatever, but he had a brother that was gonna go first, and the family was supposed to follow when they could, right? They were gonna wait for the opportune moment, and the brother was supposed to go ahead, set things up for them, find a place for them, and this is kind of a sad story, but they told the brother, no matter what, don't come back, right? Don't come back no matter what. We'll either go, we'll either meet you there or we won't, right? And eventually my grandfather, and I think it was I forget, it was either a sister or another brother, they finally did find their way to South Korea, and when they looked for his brother, the one that went ahead, they could not find him, and he went back. Such a sad story. He had gone back because they were taking so long. But he had a family, and at 45 years old, he decides, you know what? I'm gonna move to America. Because he didn't want his kids and grandkids to have to fight in the war to get drafted. Not that there was a war per se, but in Korea, you're obligated to do military service, which, not to downplay it, it sucks. But I mean, from my understanding, because I had some roommates in college that had to do that, you kind of just do it and it's over, right? The required service, yeah. But to my grandpa, it was like, he lived during Japanese occupation. He lived in North Korea. To him, it was much more of a serious thing. It was much of a scary thing, right? So he's like, I don't want my family to do that. We're going to America. I don't know if I would necessarily say he was like rich or anything, but he was doing well. 45, gives it all up, moves to America, and is pumping gas. Must be pretty happy that you get to do something you love. I think so. I mean, he always told me to go back to school every time I saw him. But I don't think he could even understand what I'm doing. But if he could, in like a amorphous, broad sense, I'm sure it'd make him very happy to know and to understand the love that I get from you guys and stuff. But yeah, I think my grandpa would be happy. Yeah, he actually he passed away this year. I had a sad moment where I had to check my phone for I had to call something, and I went through my list, my contact list, and I saw his name, and I had this sad moment where I had this realization. I was like, oh, I'll never have to click that again. I'll never click that. It was like kind of a sad realization. If he saw you play that level just now, he'd understand it was all worth it. I think so.